Hi there, everybody. This is chapter 3 of Ragweed. This chapter is called Silver Sides. So I'm wondering what Silver Sides is. Silver Sides was not just another white cat. She was a very angry cat. According to her, the world had become a terrible place, and the cause of it all was mice. A large cat, Silver Sides was 7 years old, in the very prime of her life. Her eyes were yellow, her fur white as snow. Around her neck was a pink polyvinyl collar studded with sparkling diamond-like sequins. Dangling from this collar was her city license, Amperville 30, a tag she wore with pride. Low numbers were prized among Amperville's many cats. Silver Sides lived in the home into which she had been carried as an 8-week-old kitten. More recently, her private place was a rug behind a growling basement furnace. The house humans came by this warm, quiet spot only rarely, which meant that these days Silver Sides was alone most of the time. This did not please her. Though Silver Sides had raised 12 kittens during her mothering years, she had done it by herself. It had not been easy tending her litters. It required continual struggle to teach the kittens to grow into decent, hard-working, right-thinking cats. As far as she was concerned, she had succeeded. Now they were grown and gone, having chosen homes of their own. There were even grandkittens. Though Silver Sides saw these youngsters only occasionally on midnight strolls while she was patrolling her territory or hunting in the park, she fretted about them all the time. Life in the city of Amperville was not what it once had been. When Silver Sides had been young, Amperville had been prosperous, clean, and wholesome. Mice were relatively few. Now, she had no idea why, the humans who bore the prime responsibility for keeping things up no longer cared much about Amperville. The community was run down. The worst result was that the city had become infested by mice. Moreover, these mice were very different from those of previous generations. In the good old days, according to Silver Sides, house mice knew their place and numbers. Timid and respectful, these mice lived with gratitude on crumbs. They entered houses furtively, and then only through back doors or through cracks in foundations. Only rarely did these mice make themselves noticeable, but to put their lives at risk, as both cats and mice understood. When the occasional rebellious house mouse got uppity, Amperville cats knew exactly what to do with them. The upstart mouse would be caught and dealt with. No fuss, no muss, nothing needed to be said. But nowadays, Amperville mice had not just increased in number, they had become brazen. They acted as if they actually had a right to be in Amperville, going so far as to claim part of town, a section by the railroad that humans had abandoned as their own. Mousetown, they called it. They had their own mayor, schools, clubs. Though Silver Sides would ignore these new mice, every one of them was a personal insult, an unending irritation, a reminder that things were not as they should be. Then 2 things of great importance happened. The girl who lived in Silver Sides' house brought home a white-furred, pink-eyed mouse and kept it in her room. She called this mouse Blinker. The mouse's very name, sickeningly cute, irritated Silver Sides enormously. So here is Silver Sides, and she looks very annoyed. That she and this mouse were the same color only served to inflame the cat even more. There had been a time when Silver Sides had slept on the girl's pillow. If she wasn't sleeping on the pillow, she was on the rug at the foot of the girl's bed. Now the girl lavished all her affection on the mouse. She fondled him, kissed him, carried him around, gave Blinker the complete freedom of her room. Worst of all, the girl told Silver Sides that she was no longer welcome there. The rug had been removed to the basement. Insulted and humiliated, Silver Sides hid behind the furnace for days on end. There she brooded and sulked, deeply depressed, preferring the darkness of the cellar and the smelly litter box to any kind of social life indoors or out. Only now and again did Silver Sides venture forth. When she did, it was to visit her grown-up kittens and grandkittens. It was just such a visit that brought about a second crisis and changed the course of Silverside's life. Jasper was a particular favorite grand kitten of Silverside's. He was an affectionate coal-black creature with blue eyes and a splash of white upon his chest. One day, Silversides came to visit Jasper only to discover him playing on the front lawn with a mouse. Silverside's first reaction was astonishment. The next moment she was filled with rage. Leaping forward, she gave the mouse a few hard smacks which sent him reeling away. Then she cuffed her grand kitten smartly across the nose. "How dare you?" she howled. Jasper, frightened as well as upset by Silverside's actions, hardly knew what to say. "That was my best friend," he meowed piteously. "Friend?" Silverside screeched. "You ought to. Aren't there any decent cats in this neighborhood for you to play with? Don't you know what the lowliest cat is vastly superior to the highest mouse? Where's your mother? I intend to give her a piece of my paw." A cowering Jasper said, "My mother went out." "Where?" "I don't know. Business." "Business?" Silverside screeched. "A mother's business is to stay home and make sure her children have proper friends. I cannot believe how far this town has fallen." With that, she stalked away, tail erect, but not before she had given her grandkid a spank on his bottom. This incident changed Silverside's life. Her anger was so great she made up her mind to do something about the Amperville mouse problem. That night she began to prowl the streets of the city in search of mice. It was not the act of a hungry cat seeking food. It was vengeance. Sure enough, Silversides came upon 2 mice. The first was sent running for its life. The second did not run fast enough and met a grisly end. Silversides deposited the corpse outside the girl's door. It was meant to be a declaration of war. Silversides quickly realized she could not solve the city's mouse problem all on her own. She created an organization. The organization was dedicated to keeping cats on top, people in the middle, mice on the bottom. Silversides called her group Felines Enraged About Rodents, or FEAR. She even created a slogan for FEAR, Felines First. Though Silversides invited other cats to join FEAR, most could not be bothered. They would shrug or say things like, "I don't need to join a club to catch mice. I do just fine on my own," or "I like having more mice around. There's many more to chase, and even rude food, they taste the same." In the end, from the entire cat population of Amperville, Silversides was able to recruit only one other cat for her organization. The 2 formed the membership of Felines Enraged About Rodents. Silversides was president. Her vice president was a cat by the name of Graybar. Graybar was a street cat. Scruffy gray in color, he was lean and covered with scars to prove his meanness. He had a jagged ear and a limp, the result of a battle about which he was particularly proud. It had been 3 against 1, and he had been the one, and he had been the winner. He bore his injuries as proof of his toughness. "Do you want to know what I think of mice?" Graybar asked Silversides when she first talked to him about joining FEAR. "Yes. The only good mouse is a dead mouse." "You're my kind of cat," Silversides said. Silversides had learned that country mice often came to town by train. These trains stopped near Mousetown, and mice got off. One of the first things Silversides and Graybar did was to organize a patrol around the old railway depot. Mice new to town, timid, and often scared, were easy prey for the organization. When Silversides tried it, warning it never to return, then threw it back onto the train. Those were the lucky ones. Okay, so that's the end of this chapter. And I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit worried for Ragweed since he is about to come to town on the train, or at least that's what I think. So I'm hoping he doesn't meet up with Silversides and Graybar. I think that won't be a good meeting, but we'll see. I'll be back to read next week.